So I've had a pretty eventful week. There was a script for a documentary I was working on, and while I finished most of it, where I'd say it's like 90 something percent done, um, I have a issue with I was going to use this material from C-SPAN, and they wouldn't. I couldn't find anywhere that would let me download it. So if I use the screen recorder, it's going to make it take up more space, which will make it harder to. You get the idea that I ran into something that delayed it a bit, but I should be able to finish it this week. So I am very disappointed because I was trying to put that thing out, by Thursday, but between the writer's block for that last part of it and also that stupid website not working, that lets you download stuff off of C-SPAN, I just said forget it. I'll figure something out. It's not the first time that happened with something I was trying to make. I guess I could mention my physical impairment, but I'll get into it a little bit later. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people that I really would like to do one of those on. In fact, maybe even this week I could try to make one on someone that there's no video of. And I've got a pretty decent list of characters I can pick from. But it all just comes down to like wanting to make something and not being able to because of like certain conditions with these websites and what kind of stuff they let you download and what kind of stuff they don't let you download. So it's more so a part of just kind of being disenchanted. I also might do two streams today depending on how I feel after this one is over. There's a new scandal with TYT that I thought was worth breaking down. I did this before where I took their video and played it and like paused it to convey my points. So a lot of that stuff is up for consideration. But I really want to do that documentary because I haven't done one in so long, and I think the script for that one is if it's not the best one I've done, it's probably way up there in consideration with some of the other ones. I think the research that was done for it was decent. I always say that it's interesting to me to be able to like find this stuff on people that's just out there and it's just never been presented in a chronological manner before. So that's what's always intrigued me and what I wish more people would consider with regard to like making works on people. I don't know, in general, I just think there are a lot of important people who usually don't get talked about as often as they should be. And a lot of times they tend to get overshadowed by somebody else or just not discussed whatsoever. I don't know. I feel like if I had my way, like a perfect, I don't want to call it a perfect society, but like a basic recognition style of what's the way of referring to it? A society where people who actually had like long careers that mattered were acknowledged for that being the case. I probably would have I could make a list and like every single person on that list would have at least two or three different books on them. Because this one person was like, "Oh, you expect them to make movies about activists and various like politicians?" Like, well, the thing is, there's a part of me that while I don't agree with not doing those, like not trying to make one of those, because I think it could be very interesting depending on what the story is. Writing a book is in every way easier to do than making a film. Um, for one thing, it doesn't cost as much. You have to hire a bunch of actors and try to condense some story in some small amount of time. In fact, actually, one of the things I really liked is that with some of the people who have shown themselves to be of significance, we're getting multiple books about them, sometimes by the same person. I mean, I remember Taylor Branch's Martin Luther King trilogy, you know, which I would like to eventually get around to reading. Also, someone made a really good point about how a lot of people, and I've heard this said before, a lot of people who say they like it could be King, it could be whoever, like you'll be surprised how few times they actually show it. Like, oh my God, I like Martin Luther King so much. That's why I've never heard his voice before outside of the I Have a Dream speech or read any of the books written about him or any of the books that he authored. Yeah, I love him so much. I think that's a really good point because if I were to call myself a fan of so like let's say I called myself a fan of McCain, which I wasn't, but just as an example, I would probably get a USB flash drive and or maybe a series of them and just download every video I could find with him in it and then get because he has like three memoirs, if I remember correctly. I would get those two. If somebody else has written a book on him, that as well. You know, just as an example of me like actually caring about preserving the things that this man did. So I'm just saying that, if you really care about someone's quote unquote legacy, you have to also remember that sometimes expressing that can come in various ways. And I think preserving the things that they did or made are very significant to that. So I'm just explaining what my hypothetical solution would be if I was someone that called myself a fan of that, or really just any other, like person who's active for a long time. Like a dream come true for me would be just having a bunch of USBs with different like almost every single speech of it could be a politician, it could be some activist that I like, and that they've written books. Also having like a copy of those, that would be great. Like I would love that because I would really feel as if I'm invested in this person's career, and every time they do something, I'm there. And so just like there are certain actors where if I know they're in a movie, I'll instantly go and watch it, just to see them. Um, it doesn't mean I'll end up liking the movie, but it means I'll give it a chance because oh, they gave this person I really like some work. Let me go over here and see what the deal is, if it's good or not. I was the same way like that with some actors too, where I went to get every movie that they had and like get a copy of it. Because the thing is that a lot of movies are very rare to the point where you actually can't find them online, and you'd have to end up buying a copy of it. And I always thought that was so interesting because everyone always has this thing about how on the internet, everybody someone's able to like pull up everything and stuff is it lasts forever, but not really. I mean, there are certain things, certain films I should say, that I've noticed just kind of vanish off the internet, as far as like if they were even there to begin with. And it's really depressing. Just because I think that someone should have access to a lot of this stuff. I don't think it should take that long to, acquire it. Like I explained this before that if someone had to buy every single movie that they were interested in seeing, they'd run out of money very quickly because $20, per pop or $10, that's what I've always thought was interesting about that stuff. I guess we can get into the main topic. I was waiting for some people to come, but it doesn't look like that's gonna happen. Um, so yeah, the plan for this week is to finish that documentary. Don't know if I'll actually be able to do it because C-SPAN's website is run by very bizarre people. And it's so weird because I remember I downloaded a video off of there years ago, but I don't know what I used to get it. I know I didn't just sit there and record the screen for 30 minutes, but there's something I used to get that off of there. And this is like 4 or 5 years ago. I don't remember what it was though. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to make this. I don't know if I'll totally be able to. Again, we'll see. And if it doesn't come out, that's not because I don't want it to come out. It's because I have about like half of it already done. I just there's like one part of it I need to finish writing, and then the clips that I was trying to use, and that's where we're running into this issue. But anyways, to get into our main story. So I've been pretty candid about the unemployment saga, right? And all the screwed up stuff associated with trying to work one of these places. And it almost at this point has become kind of like a parody of itself because I've mentioned before that anytime you have something that just goes on for some continuous period and people tell you to like look on the bright side and maybe things will change, it really starts to kind of feel like a joke, like, oh yeah, eventually something better will occur according to random people online. Um, there was a company that had such a garbage website that when I would click on it to set up an interview, it would say no values found. And then I was like, okay, well, how am I supposed to interview with a place that their website will physically not allow me to set up when the interview is going to take place. So I called them, no answer because of course they don't. And I just moved on. So all right, well, this place is not looking for someone, whatever. Then they contacted me. They sent me that same email like two more times to give me and the second time it was the same thing where it doesn't work. So that's why I didn't bother. The third time, they finally had it to where it worked. So after this happened, I clicked the link and it was to a Zoom meeting. Um, and I'm not really a fan of sitting up in these group calls with a bunch of people. And I don't know. I've just never been a fan of that. Um, so I speak to the one of the recruiters, and that person asked me about an issue that I think is very important, and I give my 5 sentence answer with why the issue is bad, what can be done about it, etc. And he is so impressed by his own admission by my answer that he decides to hire me on the spot, which is according to them, very unusual because they usually have this practice of like fielding the candidates and picking out which ones they want to go back to, which is the reason why I thought it would be a waste of time for me to even go on there. And for about maybe 2 or 3 days, I'm excited at the prospect of, the nightmare seemingly being over for just a little bit, right? Um, I have some opposition from a family member because they're like, "Oh, it's dangerous to knock on doors." And I was really annoyed by that because it's dangerous to do any job. Just period. It's dangerous to work at one of these retail stores because somebody can come in there with a firearm or some other weapon and try to rob you, and if you don't comply, you can get attacked. It's dangerous to drive a truck because when you drive the truck, you might get into an accident. I don't know. I was so frustrated with their lack of happiness because it was as though they were trying to present to me that this position had some heightened level of safety precautions or concerns that the other ones I was in didn't. Um, but you get the idea. It's just they basically rained on my parade. Like I was excited and I was like, hey, I got this new position. They're like, doing what? That's dangerous. And of course, another one of them, co-signed because that's all these people do is just agree with each other on everything. Everything that's in opposition to you, that is, when they're arguing with each other, only then do they start to have variances with amongst themselves. But I'm still willing to, take this position. I kind of just brush this person off. I say whatever, they don't matter. I'm not about to sit here and find myself unwilling to do something because of their ridiculousness. And it's so funny how I have a lot of people who say I'm negative, like online and not that much in real life, but especially online. But in real life, if you give me enough signs that something is different or going in a direction I will at some point find appreciative, I'm usually very open to, those types of things. Uh like it didn't even dawn on me to start thinking this might go bad because I typically don't feel that way about a position unless I've actually started working there. If I just get hired somewhere, I'm not gonna lose my mind and have all these precautions about this might happen and that might happen, because you haven't even started. So um to finally get into what ended up just causing my complete disillusion. Yesterday I get an email from the guy the way this timeline works is that I'm supposed to I was supposed to rather participate in a Zoom meeting on Tuesday and then go into their office on Wednesday, which is very far away. Not very far away, but it's not in this city. Um, and what ends up occurring is that while I'm kind of just doing general activities on Friday, trying to finish up that documentary, other stuff involved, I get an email from this guy who's the one that's in charge of that, I guess that chapter of their organization, and he says, "Hope you're having a good Friday. This is the paper that we want you to have memorized by Wednesday, or else if you don't have it memorized, you can't canvas with us." And I look at this because with other positions I've had, if they want you to memorize a particular thing, it's usually a sentence, maybe two sentences. Hey, welcome to this storage. You find everything all right, something like that, right? Some little thing that you can easily recall if you're, there for a long enough time. It just comes like second nature to you. This guy, I don't know if it was him. I don't know if it's just the place in general. I'm gonna say it's the place in general because I don't really have like a personal antagonism toward him. But this place apparently wanted me to learn to be able to recite not one sentence, not five sentences, not 10, 17 sentences in the span of 5 days. So between yesterday until Wednesday, I was supposed to like memorize these 17 sentences and then be able to say them when I come there. And all yesterday I was thinking about it because I tried it for a little bit. I tried to say hi, welcome. I'm with this company. How are you? And I just kept thinking about it. And I said, there's this is too long. But then I also started to think about something else. So I told the story about how when I was employed at both of the previous jobs from these last was it 12 months, um, I had really applied myself as much as I think I could have. As in, there was no doubt in my mind I was trying to learn the things that I was told to do. This is why at the second one I got so you know, invested in it that I was like actually taking notes like I was in middle school. And sure enough, me getting terminated had nothing to do with my inefficiency at actually carrying out tasks. Because if they showed me how to do something, I would usually pick up on it in a quick amount of time. But I thought about how with both of those positions, I tried as hard as I could, and in my and that's why I never felt bad about if I felt disappointed about being gotten rid of. It wasn't, oh man, I'm such a bad employee. No, I knew that I tried as hard as I could, and these douchebags will get rid of anyone if if they just feel like it. So it wasn't something that I really agonized over. Like if I had just done this, if I had just said this, because if people want to get rid of you, your higher ups, they'll find anything to throw you away over. But what started to dawn on me when I was sitting there and trying to recite this thing, all day long. It wasn't all day long. They sent that like 3 p.m. I was doing it for maybe like 2 3 hours. Was that I started to think to myself, wait a second, what if I memorize this? Like, let's say by some miracle, I'm able to memorize and recite all of this in 5 days when I come in there on Wednesday. Who's to say? that after a week or 2 weeks, they don't get mad, that, I don't know, not selling enough of their product and then try to get rid of me. And then, then I just learned this whole big thing of that I had to recite for nothing. Remember, the one thing I know about these employers is that they love to see people get fired, people get removed, and they're extremely unforgiving. And remember, they also like to dangle a carrot in front of your face by saying, "Next time you come in, you better improve drastically, or we're going to get rid of you," even though they already intend to get rid of you no matter what you do. And they just say that to feel better about themselves and squeeze some more labor out of you before they, cut the ties. But I thought to myself, if there's a possibility that something like that can happen, if there's a chance that I can be gotten rid of after sitting here agonizing for several days over whether I can recite this series of lines, that's really that's a page long. That's how lengthy it was. It's not worth it. And it's crazy because I thought for a long time I'd be willing to do whatever it took to get a job, but I realized I have limitations, and that if you want to try to criticize me for that, you can go in my comment section, write all kind of nasty stuff. But I'm not going to feel bad for being cautious about the fact that another place wants me to do something that, first of all, I don't really want to do, but secondly, even if I do it in a proficient manner, they can still find something else to get rid of me over. I'm not going to put up with it. So I just said that, it was like 2 in the morning because that's how far along I was just thinking about this. I said, "Hey, there's no way I can remember this in 5 days. Thereby, I'm withdrawing my interest from this position." And that's the first and only time I've ever turned down a job. It occurred earlier today in the middle of the night after I sat there and agonized for hours over whether I was even going to be able to do something like this. But I can't bring myself to participate in activities that are extremely taxing, knowing that these places do not reward that type of commitment or behavior, knowing that they'll throw you away quicker than you can snap your fingers if they find something they don't like. And I sincerely hope that no, and I'm, this is just another line in the sand. Um, if this was maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I might have been tempted to like actually sit here for days trying to memorize that. But now I've been around the block. I've had two different places when they hire you, right? They have certain undesirable things they don't tell you about. At that one from last year, it was the fact that the manager, I guess, expected me to learn how to do all this stuff extremely quickly. To where on my first day of doing these things, he threatened to fire me. It was technically my fifth day, but it was the first one of me being in the kitchen. The guy who knew when he hired me that I didn't know how to do this stuff. At the one that the last one, when I came in there for the interview and spoke to, it was like I think it was three different managers. Sure enough, they didn't mention, "Hey, by the way, there's this website that barely anybody uses where if you get enough negative reviews, people who've never met you can decide if you're gotten rid of or not." So I said, I'm done with, and I guess that was probably this position's version of that, where there's some like undesirable thing they don't tell you about until they hire you. When I saw that 17 sentence crap that they wanted me to remember, and I just kept thinking about what the future is going to look like. Going over here costs like $40 to go to that office every day. Uh, and then at the same time, you recite all this stuff after barricading yourself in some room and learning it, and they try to get rid of you because you're not selling enough stuff. I can completely see them doing that. It could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or they barely give you any hours because that's another thing, another tactic they like to use. Seriously, man, I think of these places now like clowns. Like I used to, and even if I go to an interview, I still, try to answer questions and things like that. But actually sitting here and believing there's a future with any of this stuff, and if I just try hard enough, it'll no, I'm done. I'm never gonna sit here and let one of those places, you know, have me exerting all this effort for almost no reward whatsoever. You me to learn all that stuff, and then I still run the risk of getting fired after a few weeks. Because I think the amount of rage I would feel if that was even a possibility, I don't even like to picture. I actually had this joke with one of my relatives that if I got hired by somewhere else and then they start giving me that speech where they're like, if you are unable to improve by next time, we're going to let you go. Or if you don't have a serious change in your demeanor, the second that those words start coming out of some higher up's mouth, I'm gonna walk right out of there. I'm gonna say I quit and walk right out. That'll be the end of it. Told you I'm no longer going to get excited about being hired by somewhere because I know they don't care. They will throw you away in a heartbeat and have somebody else in there before the heart's even finished making one beat. So, I am done with overexerting myself for these places. I'll fill out some paperwork. I'll remember how to do some basic tasks, but as far as like, oh, do this, learn that, nah, to hell with that. It's not my fault that these douchebags don't appreciate anybody. Told you when I was at that last position, they had me in front of the store by myself, with the only time I could actually get assistance being if it was like a really long line for hours, and I did it proficiently. Nobody that was there complained, or if they did, they had to go on some stupid website to cry and moan and make the situation seem worse than it actually was. So yeah, I feel like these places don't appreciate people who actually are competent at these positions, and they look for any reason to get rid of them. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to allow myself. See, the thing is that when people know you've been like downtrodden, they try to take advantage of you or otherwise like see if they can use it to their benefit. Oh, I'll give this person that wants full-time work part-time hours. Yeah. And I remember one of my relatives when I was talking about that position from last year, they're like, "Oh, maybe they're giving you this amount of hours because they want to give you full time later on." No, they get the manager wanted to fire me later on. That was the reason for that. And it just seems like it's a perpetual cycle where a lot of people believe that because I'm, not typically, not usually anyway, employed, they can just do whatever they want to me, and they're in for a rude awakening. So I had this one dingbat set up an interview with me in this place. She says it's at 2 p.m. I go on my email and it says 10 in the morning. After it's 10 a.m. that day, then you call her back and you get no response. You leave a voicemail, no response. And I didn't even care. I said, whatever. Just like I had another place that they sent me an email on Tuesday. And then what happened was that my email gets like regularly sent stuff from that website. So it kind of got buried. And I responded on Friday, and then they said, "Oh, we have already found someone. Thank you." I was like, "Yay, another waste of time." It's like, hell, don't expect me to respond in 5 seconds. I didn't really feel that bad about it because, like I said, who's to say that that place after 2 weeks doesn't try to get rid of me? Oh, you didn't put enough chips in the bag. You're out. So I have seen some real absurdities in my day, and and one of the biggest ones was being at two jobs that are pretty different from each other, making food versus like just checking out people's items and general store activities, and noticing how with both of those you had the same type of patterns. You have a person, whether it be the manager at that first one or those higher ups at that second one, who wants to get rid of you after you've only been there for a week or 2 weeks. and then you try as hard as you can to improve, I put improve in quotations, and then they still let you go anyway after they said you improved. So it doesn't matter. Told you I'm nobody's slave. They asked me to recite a whole damn page of stuff before I even get one day of work from there. Are you out of your damn mind? And then you only give me 5 days to do it? I don't even think political candidates memorize speeches because I mentioned before, a lot of them have teleprompters. They have the papers right in front of them when they're giving the speech. That's really crazy. It's just that the stuff you want me to memorize is too long, which I did basically say, but I said, I can't memorize all this in 5 days. I remember this one. I was thinking about how like this one person would be like, "Oh, you're selective and you're picky." It's like, no, I'm someone who, at every other position that's been offered to me, I've been willing to do it. This is the first time ever I have turned one of them down, and I only turned them down after they made a BS request of me. And I don't care what anybody says. Told you, man. If I hadn't have had the experiences that I did with these other places, I might be tempted to try that, to like actually sit there for a whole week trying to learn this stuff. But again, when you have places who in your heart, you tried as hard as you could to impress, to do the things they asked you to do, and in some cases you even did it as well as they wanted you to, and they still wanted to get rid of you, it's not worth it. Well, a lot of people these days think you're supposed to bow the knee to them and acquiesce to their selfish demands, but the best way to win these games is to not play at all. That's what I said. If I wish you could have seen how long that stuff was. It was 17 sentences and it was like three or four paragraphs. They wanted me to memorize an essay. And I looked at that, I said, there is no way I can get the first line, the second line, but all of that. The only conceivable manner that that could work is if I just had someone sit here with me for like 2, 3, 4, 5 hours for like the next couple of days. And I don't have anyone that's going to do that. So I'm not about to sit here and talk to myself and hope that I remember. No, again, especially again for a position that, as far as I know, could get rid of me after a week or 2 weeks. Or threatened to, like the other ones did. So they can keep their canvassing position and have fun with that. Have fun trying to get somebody else to memorize three three paragraphs in 5 days. That's a paragraph every like 1.5 days. Akatsuki merchant, imagine if you work two places and at both of them you tried as hard as you could. But of course, because employers don't care about their employees ever, they threaten to get rid of you and then they eventually do after like a few more days, in like 2 weeks, right? So then when you go and you try to work at this new place, they want you to memorize all this stuff before you even start working there. And then in the back of your head, you're thinking, wait a second, this place, if I memorize this stuff, won't appreciate me. And if I make a mistake or don't perform up to their standards, even after learning this crap, they could still get rid of me. So I want to ask you, does that seem like it's worth it to you to learn all this different stuff that they want you to remember how to recite just to be gotten rid of after a few weeks potentially? Like the last two pricks did? I want to know, does that seem like it's worth it to you? The self-fulfilling prophecy. I always laugh at that line that people would say. I was like, well, let's see. I accepted them. I was willing to work for them, and I only what was it? Became reluctant to do their crap when they sent me that enormous series of paragraphs and said you have 5 days to recite this, to memorize this. So I don't know how true this because like self-fulfilling prophecy entails me doing something to cause the circumstance to keep happening, but I wouldn't I excuse me. I can't make someone who hires me then suddenly turn around and go, "Oh, by the way, here's this extremely unappealing thing that we want you to do before you even come here." Seriously, if yesterday's events hadn't have happened, I might not even be doing this stream, or I would be still doing a stream because I do one every Saturday. But it would certainly um, not be this topic. No, forget that crap. That is true that candidates don't even have to memorize their stuff when they run because they have the teleprompter and they have the papers in front of them when they give the speech at the lectern. They lean up against it and they read it off the podium. What a joke, man! Like, you got to be really crazy to think I'm supposed to put up with that. No, employers really do see people as their slaves. Like they think they can make any kind of ridiculous request of you, and you'll just honor it because oh, you want to work somewhere. Hey, Akatsuki Merchant, do you remember the one guy that was like, "Have you ever thought of shoveling snow? Have you ever thought of getting snow out of driveways? Have you ever thought of taking a big rake and getting the snow out of people's places?" It's like, how insane do you have to be to recommend something that is having to do with the environment to a person that you don't even know where they live? Because where I live, there is no snow ever, unless you buy some from the store. And he kept writing like I remember it was funny because he kept writing like, "Oh, snow, 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 snow." Like nobody else was even thinking of this because of how ridiculous it was. He was like, "Snow, snow, snow." Hey, he's the snowman. No, I had one of my relatives try to crap on Alaska, and they're like, "It's always cold over there," and I wouldn't want to be in all that. I said, "Would you rather be cold or hot?" And then they said hot. I would rather be cold. Seriously, if Alaska wasn't as right wing as it tends to be, I probably would go over there because I do like the weather. Just in general, I tend to prefer cold. The only time I don't prefer cold weather to just the warmth of the heat is usually if it rains. But outside of that, I'm generally preferable toward when it's cold. First of all, snow shoveling is a seasonal job. It's not meant to take a permanent source of income. Second off, why would people pay some random guy to shovel their driveway when they can do it themselves? Oh, they can just hire landscapers to do it. I mean, he acts like, dude, like imagine when he goes outside, everyone's driveway just has a bunch of snow in it. And every day that he wakes up, just a whole bunch of snow. And that's how he became a millionaire. Because there's just this never ending supply of snow that just topples everyone's driveway. I just couldn't believe he actually recommended that as like a solution for me. Like, and then he doesn't even have enough sense to ask, hey, what state are you from? Does where you are, does it ever snow? Never occurs to him to ask this. God, like that's why I said people online, they say things that they want you to listen to or take seriously, but then they also don't listen to you enough or inquire enough to even like be in a position to recommend this. Like imagine if I say to somebody online, I don't know why you keep complaining about not being able to like about people. Let me think of a good example. Some kind of state law. Let's say there's some guy that's 20 and he wants to date some girl that's 17. And I'm like, oh my God, that's illegal. You're gonna go to jail, you're gonna go to prison, you're gonna be putting, on To Catch a Predator. And then he mentions, hey, I live in Alabama and the state of the age of consent is 16. Okay, then my point's just been blown. But see, that makes me look stupid because I didn't ask him what state he was from because state laws over here, vary on things like that. So if I had asked him what state he was from before saying all this stuff about you're going to prison and haha, I can't wait to see you look like Naruto, um, I would be spared from having to be, shown to not know what I'm not to be ignorant of his residence. Dude, that was so funny. Like he was so obsessed with snow. Like, and I remember he wrote that 3 times or 4 times. Why don't you just shovel snow out of people's driveways? Hell, I'd have a easier time getting hired to shovel heat out of people's driveways as I was over here. What a joke. I mean, I just couldn't believe like an actual adult man kept writing, "Why don't you shovel snow out of people's driveways? Why don't you get the snow, the snow, the snow?" So I said, some people on here sometimes really disappoint me with their just their inability to just like ask basic questions. Hey, do you live somewhere where there's snow? That would have been very simple. Like I said, people are just I don't understand them, but online they do a lot of crazy stuff, so I'm not too shocked. Also, I was gonna mention that my back is hurting like in this corner right here, like in the upper left side. And it was funny because I was thinking about how like now I actually like you feel bad emotionally just from like a really crappy circumstance, but I also feel bad physically too. So the pain matches with the one I already feel over all this other stuff that's going on. No, these places give you the runaround. They expect you to do all this stuff to impress them. And then remember, even if you do these things, they still throw you out. That's why I told the story about how at the last position I was trying to learn the things there very quickly because of I don't want to call it PTSD, but like remembering the thing from the one before that where the guy was manager was trying to get rid of me after 1 week. Um, and it was like I learned how to do all this stuff, and I thought for just a brief second, maybe because obviously there were rude customers, but I didn't argue with them. I deferred to the manager. I followed every single rule that I was told to do, and it still didn't make a difference. And that's why I said that this stuff starts to seem so hopeless, and the optimism associated with it goes out the window. Because what's the point of learning these things and doing this stuff, even if it's done in a proficient manner, if you've got some douchebag who's on top of you, it could be the manager, it could be the higher up, who wants to get rid of you for any reason that they can find. Remember when that whole thing about negative reviews? I got the most negative reviews because I was the one that was in the store most of the time. So if somebody were to come there between what was it like 8 in the morning to like 3 in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon, I'd be the one that they see. And sure enough, I saw on their same stupid website, other employees got bad reviews too, but I was the only one who didn't have plot armor, so I'm the only one that had to get the boot. They had another guy they were trying to fire because he didn't turn in his vaccination card, and it was kind of funny because I was like, wow, so if he had have just turned that thing in, he would still he would be there. Like there, I'm the only one they actually try to get rid of over something that has to do with performance, which like I said isn't even about me performing. It's just people going online and writing crappy. And the thing is, some of them don't even say anything. They just like, oh, this was the person that checked me out, 1 star. So I said, man, and I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I really don't. So that's why I can have no problem saying this. I hope every single one of those douchebags that went on there and gave me some score that was considered bad. It could have been 80%. It could have been 20%. I hope every single one of them has bad things happen to them. Has every awful thing that can happen to another human being happen to them. And I don't care. I'm tired of people being able to screw up or ruin my life or play a part in ruining my life, and then I'm expected to like not be upset and get over it. I really don't care. And it's like I've always been able to reconcile it by saying, well, I'm not involved with these bad things occurring to them. But I mean, they were involved with something bad happening to me. If these 4 or 5 clowns didn't go on that website and write, bad reviews, there is a very good chance I would still be employed with that company. Now, of course, you could always say, "Oh, this would have eventually happened," because they're trying to get rid of you, and they don't. As long as there's like a couple of bad reviews, but it. I mean, that's a hypothetical. So you can get mad at me for saying that. I don't care. And like I said, I only express venom or disdain towards someone that's done something to me. So I'm never gonna feel bad about feeling that way. Koski Merchant writes, "Oh yeah, people love ruining other people's lives. It allows them to do feign righteousness while doing the most sickening things." Well, that's my thing. I'm not involved in any of these people's lives. And I've never gone on a website for a company and tried to report an employee because they didn't know where something was, or leave a bad review and then attach the employees. Because I mentioned that before, that those bad reviews are not them all saying, "Oh, Justin sucks." No, they're talking about, "Hey, I came to this store. They didn't have this item. 1 star. By the way, this was the person who was in charge of their, even though they have no control over what is in stock, they take the fall for it." Oh, I came in here. This new person who's barely been working here for 2 weeks doesn't know where newspaper is, because nobody besides my outdated behind knows where that wants that stuff anyway. So yeah, I'm gonna give them a 2 star, 3 star, 1 star. I mean, it's just really, and it's like when I would get called into the manager's office, I was made to feel bad about my conduct, and I'm like, I'm not going to feel bad because you guys didn't stock up on some item and people keep asking me where it is, and I explain them that we don't have it yet. And I don't know when it's coming because I have nothing to do with when items get shipped in. Are you serious? And I always think it's what's so funny. Like all these positions, it's like they always try to get you to feel like you did something wrong. Like you are the reason you're in this circumstance or this thing happens. No, no, no. Let's set the record straight. Me being gotten rid of from a job, that referring to that one from last year, that hires me and knows when they hire me that I don't know how to do this stuff, and then the manager out on my first day of doing kitchen duties gets so enraged that he threatens to get rid of me again on my first day of doing things. That's not going to make me feel bad. That's going to make me say there's something wrong with you pricks. And sure enough, he's very lucky that I didn't have the experience with the other place, because if I did, I would have just quit right there. I would have said, "Hey, you're getting pissed off for no reason. Goodbye." Told you there. We're the era of me sitting here and trying to play patty cake and hoping and praying that this place doesn't. I'm done with it. I'm done. Like I would rather sit and be unemployed than be treated like trash and given all these vague threats. It's stupid. A lot of these bosses are incompetent and capable of basic communication, so they try to punish employees for it. Well, I didn't have a problem with my manager at the second one because that person didn't get rid of me. It was they were told by the higher ups for the company, like, "Oh, we're on this website and this person keeps getting bad reviews. So he doesn't have plot armor like the ones who have been here longer, so get rid of him." I told you I'll always remember all those mornings when I didn't feel like getting out of bed and I got up because I was employed somewhere. All those customers who were rude as hell to me, and I sat there and took it and listened to it. because I was still getting paid at the end of the day. I put up with and tolerate a lot of crap just for that. And then people come on and act like you don't have a right to be upset. I remember that I don't know if you were here for that Akatsuki merch. You remember that one guy that came and was like, "You guys keep talking about women. Get over it," or something like that. I was like, you don't get to tell me when I can finally stop talking about something. You had McCain when you ran for president. I don't know if he did I know he did it the second time. Here's a guy who'd been removed from being a prisoner of war for 20, 30 years, right? Long time has passed. And he would still bring up being a prisoner of war. So, I don't really see it. And I'm not trying to say that like this is similar to that or ain't. I'm not that's not the point of the comparison. I'm simply saying that I don't believe there should be a point in which someone can stop discussing something that happened to them or that was like traumatic for them because it's been a couple of months or a few years. Like as far as I'm concerned, I could bring up some of those chicks 10 or 20 years from now and I would think it was still valid because those things aren't going to get erased because time passed. It's your fault that I'm bad at managing a store. Yeah. I told you there were people who came on that site and they said the store was dirty. So I want you to think about this. I'm getting a bad review because of a store being dirty, which I can't even clean because I'm too damn busy being the only person that's in front of the cash register, taking in all these different customers that are coming into the store. That's why I said I will never forgive employers in general for the stuff they did to me. Having to learn all this crap, being afraid that I was going to get fired over something stupid. And then like when they're talking about firing me, making me all like do all this stuff and trying to show my improvement, and it's for nothing. You know what? I was thinking about running for the House of Representatives last year, and I guess this year as well, technically. And I kept saying to myself, if I ran, I would probably lose. And I wouldn't lose because I was a bad candidate. I would lose because I lack name recognition. Somebody else is raising more money than me because usually it's the person with the most money that wins. But it would still be understood by me that just because you're running doesn't mean you're going to win. But in the case of a lot of these modern jobs, it's almost like they have this mantra that just because we hired you doesn't mean we won't quickly fire you. That's why every time I get on one of them and they're talking about welcome, like I remember the one lady said, "Oh, welcome to the team," and all this other introductory crap. I'm just thinking to myself, it doesn't matter. Somebody snaps their fingers, makes a phone call, and then I don't have a position anymore. And then, so what was the point of me learning how to do all this crap? Seriously, at both of those positions, I haven't met either of them in over 4 months. And I still know how to do pretty much everything they showed me how to. But I don't feel like I've been made more knowledgeable or smarter. I feel if I feel more knowledgeable, it's because now I don't have the same kind of like I need a savior mentality I had before. It was like, oh, please hire me. Yes, the nightmare is because I know that they can take that hope away, just as quickly as they bring it in. Um, and in fact, it actually pisses me off more often than not to think about how I know how to do this job, and the only reason I don't work it anymore is because some douchebag who doesn't even do anything besides sit on their behind for most of the day anyway, decided that I wasn't good enough to be kept, along with the rest of these people who usually aren't that great themselves. Told you on that same website, everybody else was getting bad reviews. Not as often because they weren't in the front like I was, but they were getting bad reviews too. And because they have plot armor, none of them get fired. Not a single one. I remember the manager gave me their number and they're like, "Oh, if you need a referral." I was like, "Why the hell would I use your a referral from a place that fired me, from a person who runs a place that fired me on an application? It doesn't make any sense." It's like, "Hey, we're trying to see if we should hire this person. Let's call the last person that they worked for that was forced to get rid of them because company higher ups were breathing down their neck." Dude, I definitely sympathize with you. I am also understand your position about this all. What you say about the state of employers these days is despicable, and they are so quick to get rid of someone they chose. Um, I don't know if you were here for the earlier part, but I was talking about how I got hired by a new place on it was either Wednesday, it was Tuesday. And I got really excited because it's like, okay, 4 months of sitting on my behind, it looks like it's gonna be over. And then on Friday, after I do 2 days of, like, trying to get ID and, like, just other documents they want, right? On Friday, they send me an email, and it's got some 17 sentence long stuff on a page, right? And they say, "We want you to memorize this by next Wednesday, or else you can't come out with us and do this job." And I was sitting there thinking to myself as I was, like, looking at it and trying to remember the lines. I said, "Wait a second. If I memorize this thing, if I really sit here and apply myself like I did the other 2 jobs, who's to say that after I memorize this and come there and work a few days a week or work full time for 2 weeks, they don't talk about getting rid of me over something that they think I didn't perform proficiently at. So then I just memorized this long, enormous thing for nothing." So that's why this morning I sent them a message. I said, "Hey, look, I can't memorize this in 5 days. I'm withdrawing my interest in this." And this is the first and only time I have ever turned down a job. That's the first time ever, because I thought that was ridiculous. And I'm not going to sit here and be the slave and be called to task to do these insane taxing things for places that don't have any interest in having a long-term relationship with me. So I washed my hands of them and that was it. I know they are so quick to get rid of someone. That's what came to my mind. I said, "Wait a second, I'm going to learn this." And look, if it was one sentence, two sentences, whatever, I'm going to learn 3 paragraphs worth of stuff that I have to be able to recite to them on day one, so they can get rid of me on day 10 or 15 or 20. So I just washed my hands. I said that is not going to happen. They expect me to sit here for the next 3 days, or they expected, I should say, in past tense. They expected me to sit here from Friday afternoon all the way up until next Wednesday, just reciting this thing to myself, and then like I guess being excited. But again, I kept thinking about those other 2 places, and you can and some I was also saying that people will say it's like a self fulfilling prophecy to like think somewhere's gonna fire you so that you're gonna like make them do. But I was totally up for taking this job until they sent me that thing because it's too long and I don't think it's worth trying to recite and memorize that for a place that is likely, because we've seen the last 2 places do that, to get rid of me after a couple of weeks. Told you I never thought, if you had asked me back in like 2019 or even the year after that, right when the pandemic stuff started, that you're going to get multiple job offers, but it's going to be the places that are trying to get rid of you after a couple of weeks, I would have said you were crazy. There's no way. Like, what is the point of But that's what they do. This is their new sick game. Yes, exactly. I understand what you mean. It's because you are aware of how these employers are quick to get rid of someone or dismiss your application. Yeah, imagine me sitting here, like just picture yourself. You know what? Not even just me. Just to picture yourself getting a page long thing that you have to memorize. It's 3 paragraphs long and a little bit longer than that. So maybe like 4 paragraphs altogether. And you learn how to recite this thing after days of going over it with somebody else, by yourself, etc. And then after you learn how to do this and you start working for these people, it's a week later, it's 2 weeks later. "Hey, Megumi, we didn't like we don't think you're signing up enough people. So if we don't see a change in the next couple of days, we're going to have to terminate your employment. You're going to be like, well, hell, I just learned how to do all this stuff for nothing. I just memorized and now I'm able to recite this crap that after a couple of days is going to be completely useless to me. Told you, every time I go to one of these positions, no matter how far removed I am from them, I still remember all of their tricks. That place I was at last year, I've been there in a year, and I still remember how to make their food. Like where they put it in the cooler. You know, Same thing with this last one. I still remember how to scan items. All the other little tricks they showed me how to do, and it's like you learn these things, and then you have nothing to show for it, regardless of the work you put in order to get them. Yes, that's my point. Like, dude, when I was at the last one, I was so determined to learn how to do everything that they because I kept thinking about that last guy. Oh, you don't know how to do this, you don't know how to do that. I tried so hard to learn to do everything they told me to do that I was taking notes. At most, they would have to show me how to do it maybe twice. I mean, like if you saw how much stuff I wrote down and practiced when I was there, and just to know that they're not going to get rid of you because you are incompetent at doing the work. No, because people go on the website, cry about you, and then the higher ups see that and then decide, oh, this person we never met, throw them away, cast them out into the river. I thought it was insane. I said, I did all of this studying. I applied myself to this position as much as was asked of me for nothing. So yeah, I'm not going to let that happen a third time. I'm not going to sit here and try to learn that enormous 17 sentence crap just to be gotten rid of after a couple of weeks for a third time for a trilogy of getting hired just to get fired. No, I'm done. So if the next place I apply to tries to have me recite something that long, I'll say no to them too. I'm not doing that. Which I don't think they will because that's the only one I've seen that wanted something like that. But this I am becoming way more comfortable with the idea that this is just a thing with these positions that they're too corrupt. They don't want to actually keep anybody on that's committed to them, and they just don't appreciate people. They're basically turned into Wikipedia. Or I should call them WikiPiss. Excuse me for my improper naming of them. Yeah, a lot of these employers are very impatient and expect you to be this perfect person who can do anything. But look, what gets me is that if I had lied on my application and said, "Oh, I worked here," and then I start working there, and they're not impressed, whatever. But when you know that you hired somebody who's never done this stuff before, and you try to get rid of that person, or excuse me, do get rid of them after a couple of days, a couple of weeks, I think something's wrong with that. Because God forbid they do something else besides sit around and pretend they're signing important papers. Dude, these managers, especially that one at that place before this last one, the one from last year, they're not doing anything. I saw that guy. He was on his phone talking to somebody. Yeah, I was watching the Cabanero effect, and then I tried to say something to him. Huh? What? So I'm not even. They're not doing anything. They feel powerful because they're in charge of some crappy restaurant that's or some other institution that sucks. So they try to like exert their power. But I won't describe the manager from that other place in that type of way because that person actually was decent and was they're not the reason I was gotten rid of. So I don't have any ill will toward them. Um, Megumi says, "Yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from. I don't blame you for the decision you made regarding that job. I have never turned down a job before. That is the only time that's ever happened. Because I always said, like, somebody's like, 'Why are you working?' It's like it was first come, first serve. Anywhere that offers me something, I do it. But that was just too insane to me. They want me to learn my lines like I'm an actor, and it's crazy too. Because I was thinking about the other positions. They don't have me if they tell you to memorize something, it's usually like where maybe an item goes. Um, and if there's like a speech thing, it's like, "Hi, welcome to this place. My name is da 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 da. May I take your," but like a whole 3 paragraphs that they wanted me to remember on day one. I was like, that is so no, I'm good. Sorry. You can get mad, you can get upset. Oh well. I mean, I thought that was nuts. I was like, are you serious? Really? I looked right at that email and like when I saw it where it says you need to recite the know this by Wednesday, I was like, okay, maybe this is just like a few sentences, whatever. When I saw that, I just sat there for a couple of hours. I tried to go over it at first and maybe this is possible. And I was like, but then I thought about it. What if I learn this stuff and they want to get rid of me after a couple of weeks anyway? How am I gonna feel? Because remember, this was the same argument against all that self-improvement stuff for those chicks. It's like, so you're gonna go to the gym and become muscular and then also like drive some sports car that costs a whole bunch of money so that a woman might maybe go on a date with you. Again, emphasis on maybe. And then you look at the previous track record of chicks where they, keep turning you down. And you're like, I know what direction they tend to lean in, so I'm gonna have to pass. No, forget that. Tell you, people are really lost their minds. They think you're just supposed to do whatever they want you to every Saturday, man. Every time, without failure. Jesus Christ. I wish you could have seen my face when I saw that thing. I was like, "This, there is no." I thought it was a joke for a second. Like, this, they really want me to do this? Really? But I'm very serious when I say the era of me like being so desperate to work somewhere is done because what is the point of working somewhere, getting hired, right? If you're just going to be fired after a couple of weeks by someone who knows you didn't know how to do this stuff before you started working. But basically, when you're constantly put under circumstances that cause you to not be able to do something as proficiently in the allotted time as they would like, what's the purpose of that? So yeah, I don't get excited when I get hired anymore. I just kind of just like roll my eyes, like, okay, well let's see how they screw this up. Seriously, that I'm done with any of that excitement I used to have. Because when I got hired last year by that guy, I was jumping. I was like, yay, the nightmare is over. Woohoo. But in actuality, it was just another cruel joke. In all seriousness, it was just another delaying of the inevitable. I told you that a lot of this stuff is what's a good way of saying it? It's more complex than people give it credit for. So you have a lot of people who will say, "Oh, if you want a girlfriend, you have to do this, that, and the other." But then you explain to them, "I don't want to date someone that only likes me because I have money or because I have muscles." Like, just that's why I said that like a lot of stuff people tell you to do to impress others or to get something usually is temporary and it's not even a central point of why you would want something to begin with. But imagine like actually living in an era where people they'll hire somebody, but don't expect to be there for too long. They really do remind me of that gold digger. Like years of people saying, "Oh, getting a girlfriend is so great and it's so enjoyable, and you get to do all this stuff with her." And then you finally get one of them, and all they do is beg you for every day for like 2 weeks until you cut it off. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. That we're in such a screwed up state as a society, or just I guess as like a contemporary thing that now you actually get punished even when you get the thing you want. Like if you had asked me, would I rather be unemployed or hired by somebody that wants to get rid of me after 1 week? I'm gonna pick the former because there was a serious amount of personal torment that I felt after that initial week at that place from last year. And I mentioned this before that when I came back for the 6th day and I was like cutting stuff up and running all around, the manager said, you don't have to be nervous. And I was thinking to myself, idiot, you're the same person that was threatening to get rid of me. No, like what emotional state do you expect me to be in? Like just I say just clowns, man. They don't even use their brains. They turn those things off. You don't have to be nervous. Yes, you do. God, no wonder people like working for their dad or some other family member. At least with them, you don't get fired every 5 seconds. At least you're employed by somebody that actually cares about you and doesn't want to see you fail, fall, die trying. The problem is that having a job, of course, is a utility, and it just makes this all the more frustrating as well. Well, yeah, because now you can't even be happy when you get hired somewhere because you're gonna keep thinking to yourself, how long until they repeat what's happened before? How many times? Because I said before that like when you know in your heart, in your soul your heart of hearts, your soul that you tried as hard as you could to do this job to the proficiency level that you were asked to do, and it didn't make a difference. Yeah, it really damages your confidence in these other places not pulling a fast one as well. Which is why I made the pact that if another place makes an absurd request of me, or if they try to say after 2 weeks or a week, hey, we don't like what that you haven't been able to do this. So if you don't improve by next time, we're gonna let you go. If the next time those words come out of the mouth of one of these pricks, I'm gonna say I quit and I'm gonna walk right out that building. I'm not dangling on a carrot anymore. So these people think it's a game to sit here and mess with someone's life. That's true. A lot of people do seem to secure a position much more reliably by a family member or acquaintance. Yeah, do you think I would fire my brother if he was working for me? It's what's even crazier is that there actually are a lot of I'm not going to say I know any personally, but like I've had different family members like have me do some kind of job or task they were willing to pay me for. Like I remember with my grandpa, I would do he had this like group that he was involved with, and I would type out the documents for him. So yeah, when you're employed by a family member, usually they have like a basic enough care for you to not like try to screw you over. Like if they see you're actually trying, you know, and they know you've never worked somewhere before, they're a lot more sympathetic than just some random prick working in one of these places. That'd be really funny if I hired my brother and I have him like let's say editing my videos. I'm like, hey, so the last time you edited this video, you left this little 5-second mistake in there, and if we see this again, we're gonna have to terminate your contract, and you're gonna have to move back to your previous residence of my house. Like I'm just saying that like a lot of people I know who've been employed by someone that's from their family, they can make mistakes or like they don't have to worry about tomorrow getting a phone call. Yeah, we've decided to let you go. Just stuff doesn't happen with them. Oh, especially if they get hired by their friend. No, I know people where they get hired by their like childhood best friend, and then they don't have to worry about someone breathing down their neck. They do a competent job, and that's it. They're set for life. They could be there for 30 years and never once get called in the office about we didn't like the performance you had. Nah. Yeah, the way these employers act is absolutely psychotic. Dude, I wish you could have seen that manager from last year. Like he just transformed. Like before I got hired, he was like, "This is an easy job, and you know, I want you to start as soon as you can because I want to start training you." Really made it sound like he was this person who understood that as someone who'd never done this type of stuff before, you need some assistance, but like hope like cheerful at the idea that you can learn to do these things. And then when you get there, he turns into a douchebag. Like, oh, you didn't fill out these documents on this website that you sent me a screenshot of to show that it was down. And you couldn't have filled it out anyway. I told you when you get hired by these places, they want you to be like really happy and excited so that when you start working there, they can treat you like garbage and you'll be like taken aback or surprised by it. Because when I got hired by that place from last year, I was so excited. When I start by the end of my first week, I was getting told I was getting threatened with being fired. And I was like, are you serious? Really? What a letdown. And the only reason I didn't quit after that first week was because I thought, again, I'd never had that happen before. So I thought maybe if you actually try harder, and I tried harder and it still didn't make a difference. They gave me less hours and they just finally cut the umbilical cord. So I said, these employers are a joke. And I've also said this before. What's the point of having a job if you still can't like afford to take care of yourself? Not even because the job doesn't pay enough. They just won't give you full time. Seriously, what's the purpose of that? When you get a job, the job's purpose is to be something that sustains you with the income that you take in. If you cannot acquire the income you require to be able to live in a decent manner, I don't understand the purpose of it. Telling you, every Saturday is the exact same thing, just over and over again. The only difference between this one and the last one is that my back is hurting. That's the only variance. You guys think I'm kidding? When you get dragged through the ringer, I make the comparisons between the job and like these chicks because it's the same thing where you start out like very optimistic and then you play the numbers game, right? Where you like approach slash apply to a whole bunch of them, and then you know when you actually seem to be successful, there's like a snag or some kind of unappealing aspect of it that just altogether makes it unsustainable. The goal is to steal as much of your time and money as they can. Yeah. That's why they won't hire you full time. And that's why they'll threaten to get rid of you after a couple of days or weeks. Because these jobs are not about like, and I said this before, a job is useless to me if I can't live off of it. If this place is hiring me for part-time and I say I want it full-time, I have no use for it. Like that's chump change. So, like I'm done with these places. I'm done with like expecting or hoping one of them to be accommodating or assisting. I know that there's snake oil salesmen that they like to convince you that something will be helpful. And of course, the same relative that was like crapping on like raining on my parade on Tuesday. Of course, they're the same one that brought up school again, and I just roll my eyes. I was like, man, getting a job is so hard. I should go back to an institution that I can't afford. So I have to take out a bunch of loans and be in debt for the next 10 years to quarter century. what a great solution. Taking out a whole bunch of money that I don't own to get a piece of paper that doesn't guarantee me a job anyway, which is going to be used by people to blame me for why I'm in debt, even though the only reason I'd be in debt in this scenario was to get the goddamn piece of paper that was supposed to pay for itself. Man, some of these people are so brilliant when they make these solutions. I've never thought of that before. Yeah, you are working for nothing. Let's say my rent is, I don't know, $1,000. Let's just say that's the amount of rent that I have to pay. I start working this job and they're paying me. They're giving me maybe 3 days out of the week, 4-hour shifts on $15. It's not enough. Which is why I said that, like, you're basically a volunteer who gets a little bit of change for coming up there. Like, this isn't a job. This is a joke. Like, you ask somebody for full time because you need it, right? And they give you part time. But you know that place I was at last, the last one I was at, they were doing that to the managers too. Like one of the managers had 38, it was like 38 or 39 hours, and another one of the other managers had like 32 hours. And I remember the actual manager was like, "Yeah, that person really needs 40 because this is her only job." And I was thinking to myself, for the one with the 38 hours, he better go sell some bottles and some cans every month, every week. Oh my god, I can't feel bad for somebody getting 38 hours when I only get 22. I don't feel bad. Sorry. You can call me selfish and inconsiderate, but I mean it's kind of like someone who doesn't have anywhere to stay, and then you're complaining that your car, I don't know, got like a scratch on it. Like it's just it's hollow. They're not basically working for nothing. You are working for nothing. I mean, I want you to really think about this. If I go out and, let's say, just to give you an example, let's say I just go around all of my city just collecting bottles. And over the course of a month after collecting bottles, I get maybe like 20, $30. That's nowhere near enough to pay my rent, just in this hypothetical. But neither is the amount I'm getting from being a part-time employee at Douchebag Incorporated. So yeah, like what's the point of working somewhere part-time if you still can't afford basic living conditions? And I tell you, people when they want to criticize someone that's unemployed, they always act like the person is lazy, and they're like, it's like, no, I was excited, and I showed up every day for work at the other place, and they gave me full time. Um, so it's really the reverse of that, where people just want to get hired and actually be allowed to have a 40-hour shift like a normal person does, but they don't let you. So you're like, all right, well, this position you guys are offering me sucks, and I can't do anything with it because I can't afford to live off of it. So the hell with you. That's really ironic. People will say a person who's unemployed is like lazy, but then the unemployed person who won't take the part-time job won't take it because it's not enough hours. They want to work more. Like you get where there's like a big sense of irony in that. No one else thinks that's crazy or nuts, bizarre. I mean, I don't understand people at all. They just sit there and they accuse you of stuff, and they think that they're actually like doing something. I mean, it's weird, man. Just people don't make any sense. But I tell you that there is this thing about the just world fallacy, right? Oh, all the people who are unemployed, they just don't want to work. All the people who aren't with the woman, oh, they just want to have intercourse. Oh, they hate chicks. Yeah, that's why they're not with someone. Yeah. All these simple solutions. Yeah. I know these delusions people make, these ironies when they just say surface level nonsense on a much more nuanced problem. Well, again, because it's easier to sleep at night if you convince yourself the world is black and white, and the good people get up and work 40 hours a week, and then the bad people are the ones that don't do that, even if a lot of those supposed bad people actually want to be part of the people that work 40 hours a week. So it's all based around trying to feel better about someone else's crappy circumstance by convincing yourself that they want it to be that way, or they brought it on themselves. But a person who doesn't want to work doesn't apply to jobs every week or go to a bunch of interviews or work multiple places where they try their damnedest and still get fired anyway. That's not indicative of a person that doesn't want to work. You know what that is indicative of a crappy system where places hire somebody and then try to get rid of them after a short amount of time to satisfy some stupid quota that they might have. It's like, what a joke. That's why I say I just can't take these places seriously anymore. And a lot of the commentary by people on this stuff tends to be useless. Like I told you about the one guy that came on that old video from like 6 years ago and was like, fast forward and you're getting rejected by fast food places. I'm like, not really. They just don't say anything back. And if you had such an amazing, luxurious job, why the hell are you watching a video from someone about why they should go to college? Like I don't understand. If you have this amazing degree and are doing so financially well, why are you watching that type of video? So I said these people, they always try to make somebody feel bad. And they're not doing any better than you or I. God, what a joke. Oh, yes, these people don't have jobs because they don't want to work. Oh, what's that? That person keeps applying and places don't hire him, or if they do, they get rid of him after a few weeks. Oh, he just doesn't want to work. I know a Kotsky merchant left because he went to go shovel some snow and watch Morbius. Do they really need to be so hostile towards someone like you who's had a lot of misfortune or problem with things like being unemployed? Yeah, because I told you the one thing that these people love to do is to see a man fall, die trying. Seriously, a majority of people who give commentary about this stuff online, and sometimes even extending to members of your own family, have an innate desire to see you fail, not do well, or act as some type of additional insult to injury. Like it's bad enough to not get hired by somewhere, but to have someone who insults you over it, who accuses you of things, you know, they're just pouring gas on the fire. You're lazy anyway. Here's some part-time hours. Now, excuse me while I go sell my butt while I pretend to work so much harder than you. Dude, I'm telling you, that manager at that place from last year, the only time he would do something is if there was nobody else there. If it was like two, three, four people there, he was just sitting at his desk, just on the computer playing leapfrog. God, what a joke! Like that's the manager. That's the leadership of this company in this particular establishment. Like really, what a lousy whatever. Just they're really weird like that, man. No, there's no nuances in anything anymore. People just accuse you of stuff to feel better about your circumstance. So I'll probably be accused by somebody else of being lazy. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything. Imagine like living in a circumstance where in the past you made a show, and I guess it's still a current thing. I'm just kind of like fatigued with it, but you made a show where you have to draw right, edit it. Then if you do like a videos, a lot of times you have to, because public speaking is a career that people have. Like there are people who get paid to speak, but if I were to, let's say, do an edited video, I have to write a script, I have to record it, I have to call the parts where I make a mistake or otherwise fudge the dialogue, get the different pictures and graphics I want to show. I mean, it's I'll never not be amazed by the irony of working, like actually like making stuff that requires some amount of skill or talent, and then being told that, oh yeah, you don't want to do anything. It's like, but I do a whole bunch of stuff. I just don't get paid for it. That's the only reason it's illegitimate. I'm trying to remember who was that one guy that was like, oh, if you talk to a woman and you have the same interest, the higher levels are higher chances of you getting. It's like, are you serious? You really think I haven't tried that before? I tell you, man, people always think they're like saying something new with this stuff. Like they've got this hidden tactic you never thought of in the past. Oh, like man, I remember there was this one chick I met. It was like 5 years ago, and she was into drawing like I was, and she didn't reciprocate. Like, and then there was another one who I mentioned this one before. Like, I not as often, but I mentioned she was like blind, and she drew me a picture and I like saw I liked her and then she was like, "Oh," because she said that she complimented my physical appearance and then was like, "Oh, I don't know you that well and can we just be friends?" That's rolled my eyes. So it's just really funny that people actually think that like having things in common with a woman matters, like I spoke to a whole bunch of chicks that are into the news and they still don't reciprocate. So like I don't know, it's just I just hate that people think there's like all these insta fixes, to stuff. And it's even weirder too, because if you remember, and I'm sure you've seen this in your own personal life, Akatsuki merchant, you have a bunch of chicks who date men that are into things that they're not into. Like I've heard of cases where some guy likes sports and the woman doesn't. I used to watch one commentator who actually could prove that he had a wife because she was in his videos with him, where he would watch different like cartoons, animes, whatever, and then he said his wife doesn't like them and she'll only watch it if he watches it, but outside of that, she wasn't interested. So I've never believed that if people don't have the same hobbies, they can't like get along or otherwise, actually be interested in talking to each other. My old boss used to do that. He would literally sit in his office making TikToks about everyone's lazy and he's self-made and got it out the mud. That reminds me of that one video that guy made where he said that when people are he was talking about like the current leadership of African Americans in the US. And he said that the next time there's a riot, while they're all going out and protesting and looting and robbing and all the rest of that stuff, you're going to have Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton sitting up in a nice, cool 5-star hotel with air conditioning and smoking and eating. I'm just picturing like they're just like sitting in that room together with their feet on the table, and they're like, "Man, this is so." While everybody else is out. Ah, ah. No, these management is so lazy. Like they don't do anything. That's like one of the biggest BS I've ever heard on here. Having things in common doesn't automatically make both parties reciprocate and have an actual relationship. Well, that's what I say because I've been attracted to plenty of shit. Listen, this is just my opinion. I believe if a man or a woman finds someone attractive, they instantly know if they would want to at least go on a date with them, not get married, not have kids with them, but just they instantly know, hey, this person looks nice. I would want to like get to know them. Maybe I can ask them out. I believe that is a genuine belief I have, and I've met plenty of chicks who I thought were attractive regardless if they had things in common with me. A lot, and most of them usually don't. Who can who the hell came up with that nonsense? Oh, you were what the consequence were. He was such a pretentious a-hole and thought himself so much better than everyone. I ended up leaving that job because he was a massive. And you can't swear on YouTube. You can't say any bad word. Now listen, I know you're very upset at Kotsky Merchant, but if you actually look at the YouTube guidelines, the only time you're allowed to use profanity is if you're arguing in favor of why Morbius is the greatest film ever made. Other than that, can't you can't use that type of language. This is not a trash TV talk show. You're gonna have to speak like a statesman, as the rest of us are doing. I was actually like on the phone with somebody on Wednesday, and I was like, this, etc. And they're like, "Oh, can you stop cursing?" And I was just thinking to myself, like, God, that's why I even now I still don't do that much of it on YouTube because like you do have people who will completely ignore the points you're making if you use profanity. It's really sad because it just shows you they can't see the forest for the trees. Yeah, you cannot win with this stuff. You said a bad word. Oh my God. I'll tell you about that one relative that told my brother I was going to hell because I said like something about stupid church or something. And I was like, yes, I'm going to hell. Not the rapists, not the drug dealers, not the child molesters, not the serial killers, not the terrorists. They're all going to heaven. But the person who said something derogatory about the church is going to going to this other dimension. I already said before, I believe in God, but if that minor thing, like saying something he doesn't like, is enough for you to go to hell, then we're all going there. Like there's that's why I said like people just they're like a joke to me because if you look hard enough, you can find that every person has sinned. Yeah, and she said that with complete conviction, and I laughed in her face. And look, I'm not trying to turn this into a religious like stream, but I just want you to understand this. When you are constantly treated like garbage by different jobs, when you are told repeatedly, that, oh, no woman will ever like you, it's like you really think as I'm dealing with all these different things that are just imploding around me, I care about saying some word that might offend this deity? Not with chicks, dude. They can do no wrong, remember? Oh, yeah, I forgot about their plot armor. I forgot they have the ability to do whatever they want and face no consequence. I tell you that you have guys online who are like, "Oh, look how hot this woman is," like, but she has a kid. I wanted to ask you this: do you really think, in a hypothetical, if I had a child with some woman and I was no longer with that woman, I could come on here and go, "Oh, please go on a date with me. Oh, please, please, please," and people would actually take me seriously as like a strong contender and person that is very appealing? No, I would get laughed at. They'd be like, "You think you can have kids with other women and expect some woman to come around and want to be interested in you after you did that?" Like it would be over. Even though, like I said, they already say it's over for like it would just be another thing in their pocket to crucify me with. I don't know. It just seems like a lot of stuff is asked of you that's just not worth it. Like I don't. I've always said that to me, if there was going to be a job that actually paid me and get full time and wasn't crappy, it would have come around already. And I'm not going to subject myself to these like really bad circumstances. Oh, just memorize all this stuff for a group that can decide to get rid of me after a couple of weeks anyway. Like I know it's not normal to just expect someone to remember that much stuff that doesn't even work for your place yet, because nobody else has told me to do that. So I don't feel bad. I kind of don't. If I do feel bad, it's because I think if they didn't have such a ridiculous request, I probably would have gone on Wednesday. But I'm not. I'm not doing that. I'm about to waste my time again. New emails from YouTube and then from Amazon. Oh, they're telling me I can get some book for nine. That's actually a pretty good price. Wow. I might end up buying it. I don't know. I got this other book I'm trying to finish. I'm only on chapter two. Because that first chapter was like 30 pages. What's wrong with these crazy? No, don't ever let anybody on here convince you that you should feel bad about being unemployed. If you know that you tried as hard as you could to get hired somewhere and you jumped through all the hoops of filling out applications and going to interviews, and you know that these places get rid of somebody after a few days or weeks anyway, don't feel bad. Because remember, even if you get hired by somewhere, they can still barely give you any hours to where you can't afford to live off of the crap they're giving you. And they can still get rid of you after a short time anyway, which puts you in the exact same position as the people that are unemployed to begin with. Don't ever let anybody online try. And I told you that like the biggest problem with people on the internet is that they try to make somebody else feel bad about their circumstance or condition. But then the problem with doing it is every time you come on here, you can find a whole bunch of other people with the same circumstance or condition. And we have to apply the same logic that we applied to that chick stuff. We talked about this before, if these guys that come on this stuff are so successful with women, why are they watching videos about not being successful with chicks? Doesn't make any sense. Wouldn't they be hanging out with their girlfriend or their wife that they want us to believe they have? Just like with these guys, if getting a job is so easy and going to school is so affordable, wouldn't they be at their job or watching other successful people? So yeah, that clown on from last week was really just insane because it goes back to this thing where it feels like a lot of people think they know someone because they've watched a few videos of theirs or they watched a stream or like they feel like they have some kind of heightened understanding of what's happened to you, but that's a lot of times not true because you only get little summarized versions of events, and sometimes important details are left out. I'll give you an example. When I was in what was that, 12th grade? Yeah, I applied to I don't remember which Cal State it was, but I know that when I applied, I didn't get in because they said my SAT scores were too low. And I thought to myself, here's a school with a 60% approval, not approval rating, um, with a 60% acceptance rate. And I couldn't get into it, really. And I was really pissed. I was angry. And I said, I don't want to ever feel that way again. So I have made the commitment that I will never apply to another school that has an acceptance rate that is ridiculously low or has some other kind of acclamation about, oh, this thing that really shouldn't matters more than your actual grades. Which is why 2 years later, after going to community college you know, for 2 years, I got into a university that was out of state that wanted $30,000, and I was able to cut it in more than half to 12,000. And then three relatives who together had been working just as a group, right? In their combined years of working, it was 90 years, and they tried to convince me that that between the three of them, they didn't have 12,000, which I didn't believe. So, I basically just said I'm not going to sit here and go bankrupt trying to get a piece of paper that doesn't guarantee me a position. Exactly. Why do they feel they need to listen and watch your videos? Because they're not any more successful than you or I. PewDiePie is if I remember correctly the most subscribed to channel on YouTube, or at least was at some point. I don't know if he still is. That's a successful person. Do you see him on my videos commenting? You should do this if you want more views. No, because he people who actually have accomplished something don't spend time on the internet trying to give a bunch of unsolicited advice. That's why I said they always pretend like they're these extremely successful, like I don't even know what you would call it, but they're nothing. And I don't feel bad calling them that because they insult me, so you get what you gave. And just like Eddie Murphy's dad used to say, you get what you gave. And if you didn't give nice, you're not going to get nice. You want to sit here and try to terrorize somebody online because they're not with a woman or they didn't get the job that you think they should have or whatever. Go away. That's all I can say to them. They want to sit there and act crazy. Let them. I just think it's really weird that for people who claim to be so successful and so accomplished, they're watching someone that they believe is not. That doesn't add up to me. But I said before, a lot of people online do stuff that doesn't make sense. Like the guy from a week ago that was crying about like my attire and thumbnails. Like, okay, just go watch somebody else. Seriously, when you get so few views on stuff, your ability to care about criticism is stifled because you know that these people who leave these criticisms don't actually care about watching you. Like I remember when I did my Taft documentary, I had a person in the comment section who were like, when you edit this, try to make sure that your gulps are edited out as well. And when you and I got rid of it. I was like, no, if you think this is bad because of me breathing, go make your own. Like, I don't understand because I don't have any special powers or access to documents or materials that other people can't access if they look it up. So I said, go make your own. If you think mine's is so bad because of my breathing, you know, get in Windows Movie Maker or iMovie or whatever other program material you use. Write your script, fire it up, and let's see it. They don't even try to like bother to to get this stuff invested in any way. Like I've said before, I didn't see any videos, any documentaries on Andrew Johnson. That's why I did the one I did on him. I didn't see any on Taft. That's why I did the one I did on him. Like I am the change I want to see. I do stuff if I think that no one else is talking about it. Just like one of the videos I really wanted to make was a top 10 greatest forgotten African Americans video where I would talk about there's like a lot of different um black people like throughout the recent history of the US that get glossed over because they do is just sit there and talk about King over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Imagine critiquing somebody's video because they were breathing. I was like, damn, if I'm reading some script, I'm probably gonna. I mean, like, what do they expect? So I say you just can't win. They always have a problem with something. Man, YouTube criticism is just such a joke. I didn't like your video because you were breathing. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't have an HD audio transceiver to cut out my editing or some editor to do that for me. But I'm sorry, I'm not about to sit here and like do all that for somebody to don't even watch anyway. Two fellows that were murdered in Amazonia forest. I haven't seen that person in a long time, that Symmetry guy. The calling says, I've been watching your vids for quite some time and you come across as very intelligent, hardworking. So I feel like it's another factor at hand. I mean, thanks for the compliment, but it's really annoying that people act like this. Also, when you swear, if your comment gets withheld, that's not me deleting it. That's the automated system. Because I have people who like to accuse me. You tried to stop me from saying no. It was the automated system. Relax. You tried to prevent me from my right to speak. Like they get so accusatory. I said these douchebags must have lost their mind. They really think I'm gonna sit here and memorize all this stuff in a few days just to possibly get terminated right after memorizing it. They can have that job. Seriously, some stuff just is not worth the effort. Like I know a lot of times you get caught up in, oh, I need this and this is very important. But when you have places that can sense that or they feel as if they can take advantage of that to make you undergo some insane amount of effort for very little, just get rid of them. The ends don't justify the means ultimately. No, they don't. If you have to become rich to go on a date with some woman that lives in the pot, it's not worth it. If you have to go and buy some sports car that costs 30, $40,000 just to date a woman that rides a bicycle, it's not worth it. If you have to have muscles to talk to a woman that's 300 pounds, it's not worth it. If you have to read and memorize 3 paragraphs in 5 days to work somewhere that might fire you after 5 times 2 days, it's not worth it. Like just saying, a lot of this stuff people expect so much out of someone, but they're not willing to give anything back that remotely is even worth doing all this stuff to appease them. That was always my favorite part of that romance criticism, the go to the gym thing. I'm like, how so none of these chicks have to exercise, but you have to have muscles. That makes sense. Honestly, dating women has never been fun. I can say that as I've been in a few relationships. It's not even just dating them, like the act of talking to them just is like this big waste of time and it's unenjoyable. And people use them as a way of attacking you. You probably did this. You can't get with the woman because you're too ugly. You don't have this. You don't have that. You lack confidence. You're too nervous. You're too negative. I mean, like what they just find any little phrase they can throw at you and then assign it as the reason, as the fatal flaw, as I like to call it. Because we always have to remember their mantra. I'm gonna defend women like I'm blind. Because being obsessed with sticking up for them has destroyed my mind. That's how they act. I was like, you must have lost your damn mind if you think somebody really walks around just not. How do I get hired at all these different places if I don't shower? Do they all just conveniently not have the ability to smell somebody? So I said it's just stupid. This website has a bunch of insane people on it that just make up whatever they want about somebody that they don't like. Just invent a theory. It doesn't even have to have any basis in reality. Just create something. It's like, oh yeah, this person. Oh, they're so lazy. That's why they get up and record all this stuff for us. They're so lazy. Where did all these insta fixes come from? Is what I want to know. Well, it's about people not wanting to think critically about things. They're intellectually lazy. So if you can just convince yourself somebody doesn't have a girlfriend because they're too short or they're too ugly or some other thing you've concocted, then you can sit there and be convinced, oh yeah, this is their problem. That's the one reason, or those are the two reasons. Yeah. It's usually just one because the insta fix. Go to the gym. It'd be funny if I actually like went to, like attended the gym and just sat there and just like walked around like, so this is where I'm supposed to go to meet all these amazing chicks who aren't even here. So I sent my best friend that picture of that lady that said like that she didn't reject me, but she kind of like signaled she wasn't interested back in me. I showed him what she looked like, and he was giggling for a while. Man, she is so lucky. I have that rule about not showing anybody's picture because I put that right on the screen. And if somebody actually said she was too good for me, I would sing that one song from what's that Christmas movie? I'm trying to remember. It's like a stop motion movie. I just remember it's like you're joking. I can't believe my ears. Someone shut this fella up. I'm drowning in my tears. That's literally what happened if somebody said she's too good looking. I'm like, what? Yeah, right. Oh man. Like every time I see that picture, I keep thinking about like these because I mentioned before that like the problem with these guys that assume stuff is that they never see what any of these chicks look like. They just think all of them are so amazingly beautiful, and you're just this peon that could. But if someone were to actually say in a serious manner that she was too, I would just again probably pass away on the stream. They'd have to take the stream down for showing a corpse because I would die from laughter. It's too comedic. Every single person in real life that sees that picture says the opposite of that being too good for me. And every person I've showed that picture to says if this is as bad as it has gotten, it's over. No one who's seen that is like, well, I don't know. She looks like someone who may possibly be too. No, no one. That's never come out of anybody's mouth. We've had about 5 or 6 people that have seen it, and they've all agreed with consensus. Oh man, like I'm telling you, some of this chick stuff, it's depressing because it's like, and I said before, if I was approaching a supermodel, some chick that has like hundreds of thousands of subs, I mean, like, okay, I get it, even if I don't agree with it, and I wouldn't even approach someone that's that big anyway, because I would think, what's the point? She's got like all these other, but like random chicks nobody ever heard of, who, according to my friend, aren't particularly supermodels. Even they're like, well, I don't think we have a connection, and I don't know. Just chicks are apparently allowed to only what that. Well, we already talked about hookers. Now people are they're trying to like demonize them and say, if you would prefer talking to a hooker over a regular woman, then that proves you want you will only like women for intercourse. Like, well, I mean, if chicks do not want to go on a date and they don't want to get married and they don't want to have kids, they want to do anything that progresses their relationship with you, why would I prefer them over a group of chicks that if I pay them a price will do whatever I want? Hookers have STDs. Yeah. Yeah, regular chicks never bang multiple men. That's never happened before. Oh man. Not all women. Nobody said all. So this stuff is a joke. I tell you, the next time somebody says you'll meet a woman just at an indefinite time, I'm gonna be like, oh, I guess that's gonna be the same year that Jesus comes back, right? Or the Illuminati finally show themselves and reveal all the secret, still living people that we didn't know about. Man, all that false hope. Well, like I said, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. If you have to do all that different advice that people give just to go on a date with somebody, then forget them. I already said before, relationships are supposed to be something you enjoy, and if you're not deriving any enjoyment from them, then there's no point to them. Anyways, I'm gonna get off of here. We're going for 2 hours. I'm gonna go eat something. So thanks for showing up, Megumi, Akatsuki Merchant, the calling, and then I see that Symmetry finally returned after his long Jimmy Hoffa esque absence. So I guess that was nice. He made a fun little cameo, and I'll probably stream again on well, obviously on Monday, but then maybe Thursday. I don't know.